Let's go ahead and bring to order this regular meeting of Templeton Community Services District Board of Directors. Today is January 20th, 6:30 p.m. Roll call, please.
Directors Fardonish.
Here.
Logan.
Present.
Mortensen is absent. Peterson.
Here.
And Perron. Here.
Wonderful. We have one absent, 4 board members here, so we have a quorum. So please stand for pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please have a seat. Order of business. Do any of the board members would like to change the order of business? You guys okay with keeping the item C where it's at? Yes. Okay, all right. All right, let's go ahead to special reports. We have the Sheriff's Department representative here. Please step up to the podium.
Good evening, I'm Sergeant Gower Slane with the Sheriff's Office, North Station Division up here. I am here in replace of Commander Arauza. This month, or last month, December 1st through 31st, we had 48 calls for service. Assault and battery, we had 5, 2 reports were taken. Disturbances, we had 11, 1 report was taken. Burglaries, we had 2. And 2 reports were taken. Thefts, we had 8 calls for service with 4 reports taken. And this one, I know you guys had it was a topic several months ago. We had 3 vandalisms, which were the garage door kicks where kids would run up and kick the garage doors. We had 3 people call those in and 3 reports were taken on that. Trespassing, we had 2 calls for service regarding trespassing, 1 scam, and 18 calls for service regarding suspicious circumstances, and 2 reports were taken regarding that. As of the entire year, we took 313 calls for service in the Templeton area. So that is all I have. If anybody has any questions.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? No? Public, any other questions? No? Okay. Well, thank you. Perfect. Thank you so much. Templeton Unified School District. Cheryl, are you?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you. There is some room here up front or right there if anybody would like to sit down.
Here's another chair or somebody.
Go ahead, Cheryl.
Good evening, I'm Cheryl Parks. I'm on the Templeton School District Board. I'm going to tag on to his comment about the garage door. A friend of mine is one of the victims, and it's over $2,000 to replace the garage door. So, if anybody knows anything, don't hesitate. So, I don't know if any of you remember that there was a bell in front of the administration building at TES, and quite a few years ago, it was removed because the uprights were deteriorating and needed to be repaired. And I don't know what happened in intervening years, but it was removed for quite a few years. And last February, former trustee and community member reached out and asked, hey, what happened to this bell? So I went on a mission to figure out where it was, and lo and behold, they found it at the high school. I mean, I reached out to Greg O'Sullivan, Don Snyder, who's been our maintenance guy forever, and several other people that have been around for a long time. They had to search for it, but they eventually found it. And it has been restored. They built new uprights for it. They are going to repaint them because the powder coat is not exactly right. But it was installed on December 31st. And it's so exciting to see that back in its place. It does actually ring. It does. I tried it out myself. we're hoping that the little guys don't. Well, it does actually work, so if you happen to see it there, that's the story behind that, and I think it's great that it's back in its place.
Wonderful.
We had a meeting 2 weeks ago, and we've got our next meeting is this Thursday, so I'm gonna quickly give you a rundown of some of the things that we are dealing with. First of all, we hired a new assistant superintendent for business services. Our last one is now a superintendent down in the Goleta area. And so we have a new one. He came from Moscow area. And he has lots of experience as a business official for school districts, lots of experience with bonds. So we're excited about that. So that's going to be a good thing. His name is Martin Rodriguez. So if you happen to hear that name, you'll know who he is and what the deal is. Our superintendent, Dr. Bond, has created a student advisory council. We do a survey every year on the climate and culture on our campuses. And he meets now monthly with various students from grades 6 through 12 and gets input on a variety of topics. One of the first questions was he asked these students about happiness on our campus. Are the kids happy? So the students then that he meets with are then responsible for going out and talking to their friends and kind of getting the lowdown on what's going on that, and then they'll feed that back to Bond, and he'll take it from there. We're continuing to work with Learner-Centered Collaborative to refine our mission and vision, and expect to see more information on that coming out later this spring. I don't know if you know this, but the school board trustees have never been paid for their service on the school board. And there was a recent change in the law that has that amount going from $250 up to $1,200 for a school board trustee for a district our size. And it's been suggested that that might help the school district attract people to run for the school board. So we are likely going to be approving that on Thursday night. It definitely will not be the $1,200, I can assure you. It's more like $300 that they're looking at, which is comparable to our neighboring school districts. So. And then if you don't want to take it, you don't have to. So it's up to the trustees. At our last meeting, we talked about our attendance at the California School Boards Association meeting the first week of December. And this was our first opportunity to kind of share, because we went to different sessions. I went to one that I found absolutely fascinating. It's a school district down in Orange County area that has created a cybersecurity program class. It started out as a club and has blossomed, and as we all know, had a letter from AFLAC today. My information's been compromised, so we need more people to get into that field. It doesn't require a college education. These kids are getting into this right out of high school practically, so it's a good thing. So we talked about that, and we approved a new course description, a number of revisions to course descriptions. We have a new entrepreneurship class that we're going to start offering next fall. And we have a lot of the kids, if you've ever gone to the Makers Fair, a lot of the kids are creating projects, and then they're selling these projects. So it'll help them kind of to develop their own little businesses. We're still working on the bond. There's more information we're expecting pretty soon. I don't have a date on that. The instructional calendar, there is a draft that is on the agenda for Thursday night. And it's up for consideration and discussion still. And then this is now budget and staffing season for school districts. So we're diving in head first and seeing where we end up. So, that's it. Any questions?
No, thank you. Thanks for all the information.
You're
Appreciate it.
welcome.
Any questions? Public, any questions? All right. Thank you again. Appreciate it. All right, let's go to public comment. Members of public may address the board on any items of interest within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board, but not on the agenda today. In compliance with the Brown Act, the board cannot discuss or act on items not on the agenda. However, board members or district staff members may briefly respond to statements made or questions posed by the public. Are there any public comments tonight that's not on the agenda? No? Okay. We'll go on to consent agenda. We have several items on consent agenda. We have the minutes from regular meeting minutes from December 16th, 2025. We have the treasurer report from November 2025. We have item budget amendment, West Side Lift Station pump rehab in the amount of $17,631. Our next item is budget amendment for Volpe Isabel pump rehab in the amount of $5,050. We also have budget amendment for generator repair replacement, which is for $9,000. And we also have authorized purchase of an electric vehicle utility truck. Do any of the board members would like to pull any of these items? Any public would like to pull these items? I don't like need to pull it, but I just want to thank our staff for on the item budget for Volpe Isabel pump rehab for contacting the vendor, letting him know what our policies are for future. So I appreciate it. Thank you. All right. I guess I'll bring it back to board. If there's no further questions or comments, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that the board approve consent agenda items A through F. So the minutes, the treasurer's report, budget amendments for the West Side Lift Station pump, budget amendment for the Volpe Isabel pump, budget amendment for the generator repair and replacement, and the authorization of the purchase of an electric vehicle.
I'll second the motion.
Wonderful. Go ahead, roll call, please.
Directors Tyrone. Aye. Logan.
Aye.
Mortensen is absent. Peterson
Yes.
and Bordonish.
Aye. Motion passes 4-0 and 1 absent. Great, thank you. All right, let's go to our business item. We have first item is public hearing. So 2025 fire code adoption with amendments. We will review and if deemed appropriate, adopt the ordinance number 2025-1. Oh, gee.
Yeah, good evening. Thank you, members of the board. Tonight before you, we had our first reading of the code adoption at our last board meeting. This is the second meeting, and we ask you to preside over a public hearing regarding the adoption of the ordinance 2025-1. Waive the second reading and adopt ordinance 2025-1. Also direct staff to take the resolution and the ordinance along with all the required documents to the county for their adoption. I can go over details of the actual ordinance, but we covered that in pretty much in detail at the last meeting. So with that, that concludes my report. I'm available for questions.
Great, thank you. Any questions from the board?
No questions.
I'll go to the public. Any questions on this item from the public? No, okay. I'll bring it back to the board for comments, although, actually, I should mention that it's a public hearing. Okay, I'm just gonna, I'm gonna go ahead and open for public hearing, for, on this item for adoption of ordinance number 2025-1, just so we're clear on that. And then if there's no comments, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Thank you. All right. So, did you want us to do that in two separate motions? It's wait the second reading and.
No, that could be part of the same motion.
Okay, all right. So if there are no comments, I'll entertain a motion for those two items.
I'll go ahead and make the motion that the board adopt ordinance number 2025-1, amending chapter 6.16, the Templeton Community Services Code, adopting and amending the 2025 edition of the California Fire Code, and determining that the ordinance is not a project or otherwise exempt from CEQA, and waive the second reading of the adopted ordinance, and direct staff to submit resolution. Well, we submitted resolution last meeting, didn't we?
You approved it last meeting, and we actually did submit it to the county, but now, once it's approved, we'll have to send confirmation that the ordinance was
Okay,
adopted.
So directing staff to also submit resolution number 19-2025 and ordinance number 2025-1, along with all required documentation to the County of San Luis Obispo as required by the Health and Safety Code, section 13869-7.
I'll second.
All right, roll call, please.
Directors Logan,
Aye.
Peterson,
Yes.
Mortensen is absent, Tyrone, and Fardonish.
Aye. Okay, motion passes 4-0 with one absent. Okay. Next item is Measure A Oversight Committee Annual Report. Oh, please come on to the podium. Thank you. Good to see you. Good to see you. Thank you for coming.
Good evening, Board of Directors. My name is Dan Mosnich. I am a 36-year member, community member in Templeton, and have served on the Measure A Oversight Committee for the last 5 years since the measure was passed, or shortly after it was passed. During that time, I and a host of other people have been participating on this Oversight Committee to make sure that funds were used in the way as decided, as going on by the community itself. This evening, I'm here to just briefly summarize that report for this school or this for this year, and at the same time let you know our findings as well. The intent of the Fire and Emergency Services Measure A report was to provide, or the Measure A itself was to provide essential local fire protection and emergency medical services 24 hours per day, 7 days a week. In addition to that, it was to reduce, or it is to reduce, the fire and 911 emergency response times, and thirdly, to train and retain qualified firefighters. Our job as an oversight committee is to make sure that funds are being used in that direction, and they're spelled out how those funds are used. Specifically, they can be used, the funds from Measure A can be used for salary, benefits, and training, and other personnel and related costs. For the cost of equipment and apparatus acquisition, the lease, operation, and maintenance of those materials. And finally, the costs associated with the fire facility operations, maintenance, repair, and renovation of equipment. And I am here as a chairperson for the committee this evening to report that indeed those funds, once again this year, have been used as directed by the Measure A, by Measure A itself. And to add to that, that the results of that use of funds have met the intent of Measure A itself, which, as I mentioned a minute ago, was to provide 24/7 service, to reduce fire and 911 emergency response times, and to train and retain qualified firefighters. So on that note, I say that we as a committee are saying that you are in a good space right now in terms of how the Measure A funds are being used. Thank you. Any questions? I'll be happy to answer.
Great. Thank you for your report. Appreciate it. Thank you for also all the time you spend on the committee. Any questions from the board?
No questions here.
Right. For the public, any questions on the report for Measure A? No? Okay, we'll bring it back to the board. If there are no further questions or comments, I'll entertain a motion to approve the Measure A Oversight Committee Annual Report.
I'll move that we approve Measure A Oversight Committee Annual Report for the fiscal year 24-25.
Do I have a second?
I'll second. Go ahead.
I think I heard it.
Directors Peterson,
Yes.
Tyrone. Yes. Logan,
Aye.
Mortensen is absent, and Fardonish.
Aye. Okay. Motion passes 4-0. Great. Next item, fire department staffing alternatives. So we will compare pros and cons of reverting to the Measure A staffing model versus doing away with the reserve program and retaining 3 full-time engineers. So I'm assuming you're gonna lead us on that discussion.
Try and kick this off tonight. Good evening, members of the board, President Fardonish. Tonight I'm here to discuss staffing options for Templeton Fire and Emergency Services. This is all coming about as the expiration of our SAFER grant wounds, this next month. My recommendation, just right up front, is going to be what we are calling option one. To have two full-time personnel on duty 24 hours a day. I want to clarify what that is. Before discussing staffing models, I want to address 3 topics that have come up in public discussion. Number one is we are not asking for additional money from the community at this time. So I just want to address the community on that. While additional funding could resolve our problems, our staffing challenges, it's not what's being proposed this evening. This discussion is about choosing the safest and most sustainable staffing model within our existing financial realities. Why the decision matters now: the SAFER grant expires next month at the end, close to the end of the month, around the 17th. Maintaining current 3-person staffing model without the SAFER grant is just not financially sustainable. The board must decide whether to revert to Measure A reserve model or adopt the full-time 2-person staffing model. The financial perspective, Measure A projected financial 2026 deficit is approximately $47,000. Option one is a projection of about $65,000, so about an $18,000 difference. So these models are very close. This small difference, although significant for us, is must be weighed with regards to operational safety, sustainability, and predictability with our crews. Operational reality, Measure A, captains must act as both incident commander and apparatus operators, which present safety concerns. That's a lot to put on our captains. It creates a real safety issue when they're having to operate the engine and act as captains as incident commanders. Heavy reliance on our reserve firefighters with varying experience levels. And I just want to throw a caveat in there. This is not an easy decision for a fire chief. Because when I'm talking about our reserves, I'm talking about young men and women that I've come to know. And when I make this proposition to eliminate the reserve program, it's not an easy one for me. These are all great people, and it makes it a very difficult, option to have to select. But again, it's one that I think is necessary. Again, back to Measure A, reduces crew cohesiveness and consistency. Night staffing drops to 2 personnel, increasing our risk because then we not only have 1 full-time captain with 2 not adequately trained personnel during the day, but then 1 full-time captain and a not adequately trained person in the evening. And that person can rotate on the old Measure A model. So we just don't have that consistency there. Higher training, scheduling, and administrative burdens with the Measure A model. Option one, which we are calling the 3 captains, 3 engineers, a trained full-time engineer on every shift, consistent crews who train and respond together, improved command effectiveness and firefighter safety, reduced administrative and training burdens, and predictable professional staffing 24/7. And we won't have the revolving door that we've seen with our reserve program. Some of the questions about whether we'll be able to participate in out-of-county assignments. There's no guarantee that out-of-county assignments will be available even if the reserve program is retained. Strike team availabilities vary from year to year, and we don't know what that's going to look like from year to year. Even without a reserve program, we still may be able to fill out our out-of-county assignments through partner agencies. If we look to our neighboring agencies, and our neighboring agency to the south has a seasonal program. If we can work something out with them, we could possibly bring people on board when we get called to go out of county and still fulfill those out of county assignments. So there's options out there. Out of county assignments should not be relied upon, you know, as a sustainable funding source anyways, as we mentioned to the board before. The other item that has come up in the community is a county fire discussion. There's been public discussion regarding county fire taking over Templeton, and that's something that has happened in the past. This does not solve our staffing problem or our challenges. Measure A is a local property tax override intended for local fire departments, not the county. Templeton would immediately lose the $500,000 annually in Measure A funding. That funding would not automatically transfer to the county. County fire serves a much larger response area, resulting in guaranteed increases and in our response time. As you probably well know, as I've mentioned before, county fire serves probably a 30 to 40 square mile area for their response. And when they're out covering certain areas of the county, Templeton will be left vacant if we didn't have our local fire department. Just to address some of those items. Future funding considerations, if Templeton were ever to ask for future funding, which we are not right now, it would be tied to an increase in service, not maintaining existing operations. This would be most likely adding paramedics to our engines or something along those lines. So we wouldn't go back to the community without asking them and adding an additional service to that. As we see our ambulance response times getting a little bit worse at times, having a trained paramedic on the engine would be nothing but beneficial to the community, in my opinion. Any such request, any such request involving that money would require a vote of the community. And the decision would rest entirely on the residents of Templeton and obviously the board of directors at that time. My professional assessment from an operational safety and risk management perspective, option one provides the most predictable, professional, sustainable staffing model with our current funding. I respectfully request the board adopt option one, authorize 2 full-time staffing models, authorize the full-time staffing model of 2 personnel, direct staff to complete the necessary personnel and budget adjustments. And this is all to keep the Templeton Fire local, professional, reliable, without asking the community for any more money. And like I say, this is a very hard decision as a fire chief. It's something that I really never wanted to do. As you know, NFPA 1710, as I've mentioned in the staff report, is the industry standard is 3. And that's critical. We've seen what happens when we have minimal staffing, and it creates a safety issue. We've also seen what happens when we have significant staffing, and it allowed us to keep in check a very significant fire that saved the majority of our downtown. With that, I'm available for any questions with regards to the rest of the staff report.
Thank you. Thank you for the report. Appreciate it. Let's just go to the board's just questions at this time, and then we'll open it to the public. So,
Yeah.
Questions?
Yes.
Secretary?
Can I just clarify the staffing for Measure A model and
Yes.
option one? So daytime under Measure A, the daytime would be a captain, an engineer, and a reserve.
No, it would be on one shift. We would have a captain, an engineer, and then a 12-hour reserve firefighter. Then the other shifts would be a captain, a reserve, and a reserve. And then in the evening, it would be a captain and a reserve. And then let me break it down to 3 shifts, A, B, and C shift.
Yeah.
Let's say we put our engineer on A shift. Okay, so it'd be a captain and an engineer on A shift.
Okay.
and with one reserve firefighter. That firefighter goes home after 12 hours or whatever time frame we determine that we can financially afford. B shift comes around.
Okay.
B shift will have a captain, a reserve firefighter that will be there for 24 hours, and a reserve firefighter that will be there for 12 hours.
Got it.
And then C shift would be that same thing, a captain, a reserve, and a reserve. So
And this is
24
under
hour,
Model A.
that's model, Measure A model, correct.
And then under number, option
Option one would be a full-time captain and a full-time engineer on all three shifts.
And when are we dropping down under, model staffing, Measure A staffing model to the nighttime? 2 personnel, that would be,
So depending upon the financials on it, if we can go 10 hours with that firefighter, 12 hours with that daytime firefighter, that would depend, but typically around 8 o'clock in the evening. So it'd be like from 8 to 8,
and the 2 would be 2 reserves,
correct.
When you say the two, can you clarify?
the 2 personnel on staff during the night shift under,
No, I'm sorry, it would be one captain and one reserve.
I'm sorry, is that with option one?
That's
Or
with
Measure A?
Measure A.
Okay, all right, now I've got that.
and then, same, so, the night shift stays consistent under option 1 though. So it's always captain and engineer,
Correct,
even at day and night.
exactly. So 2 full-time personnel, 24 hours a day on all 3 shifts.
And my other question is, so going with option 1 would effectively eliminate our reserve program,
Yes.
okay? And do you know about how the breakdown between calls versus the day, calls for service during day versus night?
I would have to look into it and give you more specifics. We do run a majority of our calls during the day. They're typically medicals, but we can run a substantial amount of calls in the evening also. We have had, most of our fires are after hours.
Yeah.
And that's why it's more critical to have that engineer in place, to be able to pump the engine to where the captain is not driving, has to get out, then pump the engine, set the engine up, get the reserve firefighter in place that has not been trained to do any of that type of stuff. So essentially, and with no disrespect to our reserves, because they are fantastic people and they are a bunch of them. If we give them the proper training, I would hire them on as full-time firefighters right now. And potentially promote them into reserve positions because they're that talented. But it's one of those positions where essentially we're creating a situation where our captains, you know, if we got a new set of reserves in and it's the first shift, for that reserve firefighter to come onto the engine and work with that captain, that reserve could be working that night. If they break a fire, essentially that captain would be operating that fire almost by themselves.
Okay, I think those are my only questions for right now.
So I have a couple questions. In terms of response time, currently we're hitting our response time, are we not?
Yes.
Okay, and I took a look at our current budget. And in there was some historical data with respect to the call volume for the fire department.
Mhm.
And in fiscal year 2018, 2019, the call volume was 940.
Yeah.
And then in fiscal year 24, 25, it went up to 1,162. So based on that increase, and it's increased year over year, but in 24, 25, there was somewhat of a significant increase. So I'm anticipating that the call volume will stay increasing.
Correct. And if I can clarify, in 2018, we were still responding to our senior care facility down on 290 Heather Court.
Okay,
but we were responding to calls that were just lift assists and a variety of other things.
Yeah.
Since then, you saw a dip in calls and then them starting to rise again. We eliminated those lift assists.
yeah, it dropped down in 2021,
Correct.
but then it jumped back up. It went from 858, and then the following year it jumped to 936.
Correct.
And it's continued to increase since then.
Right.
So my
To 1229.
Yeah. So my concern is that as more development has occurred, more call volume,
Most
with
definitely.
increasing staff, what do you anticipate in terms of response time? Do you see a degradation in the
Well,
response time?
I think if we keep full-time staff and we don't have new reserves coming in that have to be trained continually, our response times won't change. We will stay at a high level.
So you think you could still hit those response times?
Yes,
With option
one.
one, okay. And then in option one, and even in option, measure A, staffing, I know it's not hitting the national standard, for fire protection. But what about, OSHA? Is it meeting requirements there?
Well, there are no OSHA standards with regards to minimums.
Okay,
OSHA does refer back to NFPA.
okay,
So it's still that three-person staffing, well, four-person technically. And NFPA 1710 is that,
Yeah.
that standard.
yeah. And based upon my research on that particular standard, it sounds like it's fairly common for, departments to have a lower standard than what's recommended. And it's usually because of financial reasons. So, that would be my
Correct, but
reason.
most departments out there, you know, that especially within California, have a minimum of three.
Do you see a more reliance upon, mutual aid with either options?
With either option, we're gonna still need mutual aid,
But
correct?
you don't see that increasing, with one option over the other?
I don't see how it can, because right now we ask for all the mutual aid that we can technically get back. So we get an engine from Atascadero, an engine from Paso Robles, an engine from the county, and then our engine. I think the burden would rely or fall more on the full-time staff here, for a callback. So for example, if we got a structure fire, and we have more personnel living in town than we have close by. And most of our full-time people do live close by. Than we have before, or in a while. Getting them back to the station, during a structure fire and having a second engine respond, could help that mutual aid response, or those numbers that we're supposed to meet, per NFPA, which is 15 on a structure fire.
What about, 4th of July? Because seems to be a problem as well. And I'm concerned because we're continuing to allow for fireworks. And illegal fireworks have been kind of a problem that has only increased over the years. Do you see that, how would you staff for that if you went with option one?
Well, we could do the same type of staffing. We put 3 on each engine, and that's all of our personnel, for the evening of the 4th of July. And then use the monies that would hopefully be collected by the fees to offset the overtime for that day. But we would have 3 on each engine, which is probably 1 less than we typically have, for full-time staffing.
Okay. And you indicated, I think, with option one that we would still be able to do out-of-county assignments.
Option one would be more limited on our out-of-county assignments,
Okay.
but I want to make it very clear, we're limited on the old Measure A model anyways.
Yeah.
When we go to reserves, typically, we have to forecast whether we're gonna get called out on a fire and then try to staff up. If we had a situation where, we went to 2-0 staffing it would definitely be more difficult. We could probably work a schedule to where we could send 3 of our personnel out. It'd be very difficult to cover back here. We could do 1 person rotating. But if we, worked something out with a neighboring agency, for example, the Tascadero with their seasonal program, we could then grab one of those people when we're asked to go out of county and place them on our engine as a 3rd person. Now we're not impacting, well, we'll impact our rotation, but like we normally would.
And then in terms of vacation time and just vacancies, you're looking at probably overtime to deal with those issues?
That would be somewhat unchanged. Yeah, I mean, it's the same.
It's not a perfect world, is it?
No.
Those were my questions.
Peterson, you have a question?
No, I don't have any questions. I would like to compliment Tom on the report. That all of us on the board share your pain with what you're recommending. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
In the memo, it says that the committee did not make a formal recommendation, and passed it back to the board. Is there any more insight as to how that vote went?
Well, there wasn't a vote taken, but, you know, your board president, Fardanish, serves on that committee, as does board member Mortensen, who's unfortunately not available tonight. And then there is one resident who serves on that committee, Keith Agson. And my recollection is that Keith Agson made endorsed the 2-person, or what we're calling model or option 1 at this point, endorsed that as his preference, but the committee itself as a whole did not, but rather suggested that these options need to come forward to the board, you know, for a decision, even absent a specific recommendation from the committee. And quite frankly, some of this is really just a matter of timing. You know, we adopted, the district adopted your goals, which outlined the process that would be followed to lead us down this path, and we did apply for a SAFER grant last summer, but didn't find out conclusively until December that we were not awarded it. And so that only gave really like 60 days before the expiration of the existing SAFER grant. So getting this before you tonight allows you to make a decision that can be implemented at the conclusion of SAFER grant period without essentially hemorrhaging cash. We're not in a position to stomach the current staffing model financially very, very far. It's gonna cost us about $250,000 a year. So if every month that's delayed and you keep the current staffing model in place, you'd be losing about $20,000 of reserves, if so to speak. And so the committees was sensitive to that, and that's why it's before you, before there was any further or any more detailed recommendations.
Thank you.
All right, let's go ahead to the public. Any comments from public on this item? Please stand to the podium.
Hello, my name is Jimmy Shogun. I live in Templeton with my family of 5, and wanted to come and express my support for option 1. You know, I think when someone calls 911, frequently firefighters are the first to show up. And, you know, I think the community expects when they show up, those firefighters to be ready, able to help them out when seconds and minutes matter. So does training. And that is not a reflection of my support of option 1 to the reserve firefighters that the department has had. They are wonderful people. I've got the opportunity to know a few of them. But having 2 full-time staff members that work together and have the ability to be a team when they're responding to a call is really important. And the idea of having one that arrives, maybe it's their first day, they're new on the job and they're not quite ready to step up to seek you for emergency services, is a risk that I'm not willing to take as a community member. I'd like to know that I've got a team supporting me call 911. So I just wanted to come in today and say that I have the deepest respect for the fire department. But I'm in full support of option one and ask you to consider that. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. For your comment. Any other comments? Please.
Good evening. My name is Conrad Woodruff, and I have been a resident of Templeton for over 15 years. Tonight, I am standing up here to support our Templeton Fire Department. At the moment, as you know, the department is staffed with a captain, an engineer, and a reserve firefighter. However, that will change next month when the SAFER grant expires, which leaves the department with a captain and a reserve firefighter for each shift. I respectfully ask that you, the TCSD board, consider funding the 2 engineer positions for the following reasons. Having 2 professional trained firefighters, such as a captain and an engineer sharing the duties, is much safer and controlled than a captain and an experienced reserve firefighter. More experienced staffing equals faster response times, whether it's one of the many medical calls the fire department responds to, a traffic accident, or a fire. Templeton Fire's response area covers about 8 square miles versus the nearest CAL Fire station, Station 30. Which goes all the way up to the Monterey County line and to down south to Atascadero, and is one of the busiest stations, according to the website. And according to CAL FIRE.org website regarding Station 30, Station 30 is currently staffed by a captain and a fire apparatus engineer, which means they are currently performing under industry standards, which would be a captain, an engineer, and a firefighter for each shift. CAL FIRE San Luis Obispo L2881 posted on Facebook on October 14th that only 1 out of 12 SO County fire engines is staffed daily with 3 professional firefighters. With the nearest CAL FIRE station being under industry standards for daily staffing, as well as being one of the busiest CAL FIRE stations in the county, it's important that our fire department is staffed with fully trained professional firefighters. And with all the new building and all the projects currently on informational hold, within the TCSD boundaries, it makes sense to have fully trained professional firefighters on staff as the community of Templeton grows. Lastly, Templeton Fire Department has a working relationship with the community. From July 4th pancake breakfasts, Santa parades in December, open house in October for fire safety, and TUSD where TK and kindergarten classes walk to the fire department and learn about fire safety and fire trucks, fundraising for the Seattle Stair Climb, which raises funds for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, trick-or-treating on Main Street, and the 9/11 Memorial Stair Climb. Templeton Fire Department has been here for the community, and now it's time to support the Templeton Fire Department once again. And thank you guys and the regular firefighters too, because you got to learn somewhere. And it would be awesome if we could support with 3 on each staff, but I know that's not likely, and I don't think the county is going to put funds or CAL FIRE itself to making Station 30 or fully staffed to cover this if something were to happen and we didn't have the Templeton Fire Department.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other comments? No? Anybody on Zoom? Comments on Zoom? Comment? Right.
My name is Katie Thompson. I'm a longtime member of the Templeton community, and my father was a firefighter here, Mike Erb. Sorry, I hate talking about it. I'm here to support the Templeton Fire Department. Whatever we need to do for us to be best prepared to support our community and help them out is what we need to do. Like in an ideal world, the more firefighters, engineers, captains that we can have on shift as possible, we need to do. Whatever, that's what we need to do. So.
Thank you. Any other comments?
My name's Penny Hagan. I'm a long-term native to this area. And I just also wish to completely state the same thing, that without Templeton Fire, we're at a loss, you guys. Templeton Fire is a must. We as a community, we need them to have the support that they need. We need to have trained staff, because we as community that go out there and we're calling 911 and stuff, and we're calling 911 because we're desperate. We need the staff that is trained to do what they do. It's imperative. Templeton community needs that, and they deserve that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Any other comments? Oh. Big guns.
Glasses and everything.
I can't see anymore on the phone like you do, so. Philip Goldblum, I'm the president of the Templeton Firefighters, Local 5422. With the SAFER grant ending, this board faces a critical decision. How we staff our engines moving forward will directly impact response times, firefighter safety, and the level of service our residents expect. Full-time engineers are not a luxury. They're essential. They're highly trained to operate large emergency vehicles, manage pumps and water supply, and position apparatus safely on scene. These skills require experience and consistency. They cannot be replaced quickly or learned on the fly. Reducing full-time engineer staffing increases risk of delayed response, operational errors, and injuries to firefighters and civilians. Those risks don't go away. They simply shrink, often at a higher cost. There's also a workforce reality. If positions are cut, we lose experienced engineers immediately to surrounding agencies that are hiring. They don't return. Consistent staffing also improves morale, readiness, and crew cohesion, factors that save time on scene and ultimately save lives. It is also fiscally responsible, reducing overtime, injuries, and apparatus damage. Ending the SAFER grant should not mean stepping backwards. It should be an opportunity to reaffirm this organization's commitment to safety, service, and sustainability. We respectfully urge you preserve full-time engineer staffing. It is the safest and most responsible path forward. Thank you.
Good captain. Any other comments?
Evening board, my name is Zach Jackson, current president of Atascadero Professional Firefighters. Our members, I represent 19 of our professional firefighters in Atascadero, and all of our members support option 1 in order to maintain professional firefighting services for the community of Templeton. Here in the county, we rely on a robust auto aid system, of which we rely on Templeton when we have a large incident in the city of Atascadero. Having professional trained firefighters is very important, not only for the community safety, but for our safety as firefighters. So for that reason alone, we support Templeton and option 1. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Any other comments? Okay. I'll bring it back to board for further discussion.
I just want to clarify the options that we laid out for you, and of course, these are not exclusive, but there was some discussion about CAL FIRE and what we do. Just to make it kind of clear, you know, we've been in operation on a 24/7 staffed model since the fall of 2020. We altered that a little bit early on, about a year into it, and then we received the SAFER grant about a year and a half later. And for about the past 3 years have operated in the way that was described today, with a captain, an engineer, and a reserve on 24 hours a day. So for the past 3 years, we've had 3 firefighters on duty. The report that we brought for you outlines 3 distinct options. And again, there can be others, but the first one is leave the staffing the way it is. The committee quickly concluded was not sustainable. It resulted in about $250,000 a year in additional expenses beyond the other 2 models. Revert back to Measure A. That was sort of the assumption when we accepted the SAFER grant. If it was not renewed, we would revert back to the Measure A model that was described tonight. That's how we operated back in 2021 and early 2022. I'm sorry, all of 2022. And then the third option is what we call this option one, where it would essentially eliminate in order to fund the 2 full-time engineers, we would need to eliminate the reserve staffing and really program, because there are costs for reserve firefighters beyond just having them on the schedule. We train them and bring them on and run an academy a couple times a year. So that program would need to go away. At least that's the financial comparisons we provided, eliminated that program. So those are the 3 options. You can discuss other alternatives, but the committee did not discuss, going to CAL FIRE or turn this over to the county. Those are bigger, longer term things that could not be in place in 30 days, even if you wish to go down that road. So these are the 3 options that we think can be in place in a month, based on the board's decision. Just to kind of highlight where we're at. When you adopted the budget for the current year, which runs July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2026, funding for the engineers is only for those 2 additional engineer positions, ceases to exist in middle of February when the SAFER grant runs out. So if you wish to keep them, you'll need to direct staff to sustain those positions and to include money to fund it going forward with the mid-year budget review, which is expected in February anyways, and then proceed with directing us to take the steps to eliminate the reserve firefighter program, which essentially, unfortunately, means, probably laying off those employees, certainly not having them on schedule come mid-February. The Measure A staffing model also would require kind of a 2-step process. If you wish to revert to the Measure A staffing model, we would need to issue notice of intent to eliminate the positions to the incumbent engineers. And then at your meeting in February, you'd have to approve an alteration of the position allocation in the budget, because they would have to be removed from the budget authority. The funding would not need to change necessarily, because again, the budget was built around reverting to Measure A come mid-February and beyond for the rest of the fiscal year. So I'm happy to try to answer any questions, but just wanted to clarify the 3 options that were identified for you tonight.
I didn't want to add any confusion with regards to bringing up the CAL FIRE option. That was something that came up in the community that I just wanted to address it.
Thank you. Well, let me just start, because I also looked at the budget, and I think it's important that the community also understand kind of the constraints bit. I want to thank everyone for coming this evening and also for the letters that we received. I think, speaking for all of us on the board and all of us live in Templeton, we all agree with what's been said tonight and what was in those letters. Problem is money, and that's what it comes down to. And I appreciate what, Tom, you've provided us with options, but it's not ideal. Option Measure A or option 1, to me, neither one. It's really kind of, both of them are fairly ugly. But in looking at the property tax distribution, because the fire department is funded by property tax, basically, correct me if I'm wrong, we get roughly about 6 cents on the dollar that's collected. And what's coming in from the county, 72.125% of the property taxes that comes back to the district goes to the fire department. Streetlight gets 1.75%. Park and Rec gets 26.125%. And that's how our property taxes are coming back to Templeton into the district. And that's what is funding. So with water and sewer, it's all rate-based pay. So we bill and you pay the rate. But we rely on property taxes really to fund the fire department. And we've got some very generous people in the community also who've donated equipment. But the big issue is, we've lost the SAFER grant, and we were lucky to get it for those 3 years. We didn't get it again, maybe next year, I don't know. But I'm also concerned with response time if we revert back to Measure A, because when I look at the call volume increasing, it concerns me that we're not going to be able to hit our response times. And I'm also a little concerned about, are we too much reliant upon our neighboring fire departments for mutual aid because we can't get to those response times or to those emergencies. And most of the emergencies, most of the calls, based on what you've provided, Tom, are medical related. And given my age, if I have a medical emergency, I want somebody there quickly. So that concerns me. It also concerns me the fire safety as well of the personnel responding to those fires. Are we putting our firefighters in a position where it's not safe? So with that, I'm leaning towards, and I have to go with the professionals, with you, Keith Axon, I know, and I respect his opinion greatly. So I'm leaning towards option one, but this is only a short-term solution. We've got a longer-term problem, in my opinion. And I think we've got to look at possibly, what do we do with the fire department? How do we fund it and how do we staff it appropriately? We were very lucky to get $1 million from Representative Panetta to fund a fire engine, which is on order. Without that, we'd be in a world of hurt because our engine is sometimes just limping along. So at some point, we've got to have a deeper discussion, this board, about what to do longer term. Is it that we look at, how we do this distribution of the property taxes? Does Park and Rec become more of a parent-sponsored programs instead of the district sponsoring those programs? And I know I'm saying things that are probably not very popular with some people, but I come from, an area where my son grew up with parent-sponsored programs, Little League, AYSO. It wasn't the city, and I lived in a very affluent area, and it was basically the funds, the property taxes went towards maintaining the facilities that my son used for his sports. And I think we've got to look at, do we do it a little differently? So because that's really what it comes down to, that we have no wiggle, but that's what we're dealing with. Park and Rec and how we fund Park and Rec and the programs there, and then looking at how we provide emergency services. So there's my piece. So I'm with option one.
Thank you.
I am in favor of option one, and I agree with probably 98% of what Debbie said.
2%.
If you have an emergency, just come next door. But I mean, I agree. We need to do something because as time goes on, we're going to lose the fire department if we can't figure out how we can fund it. And so again, this is a stopgap measure, but I have to vote for option one.
Any decision that we make, we will have to be revisiting in a year, correct?
So, I mean, I wouldn't suggest, actually, any decision you make tonight, probably some component of it's gonna be on your next agenda as part of the budget review for the next meeting. No, you're not committed to that plan going forward, but I would caution you about, changing or considering changing this model, frequently. So hopefully this is something that you can see at least work, whatever you choose can at least next couple of years. I mean, I do want to, just to provide some background, before the board put Measure A to the voters, there was some analysis about how long would the funding last. And I mean, we knew that over time, costs would rise faster than the revenue. Property tax goes up pretty slowly. Measure A is capped at 2%. Growth each year goes up fairly slowly, and our costs go up faster. At the time, it was anticipated that we could get at least 10 years of Measure A level of service out of Measure A. This option one's going to cost a little bit more, and there might be harder to get some of the other revenue sources that we've been able to get in the past several years. But we've built up a little savings account as a result of those early years after Measure A was implemented. We were spending less than we were bringing in and setting aside those funds. We've got about $400,000 in what we call future fire operations. So if you're considering option one or either of these options, but let's just take option one since that's really the new one before you now, And we're gonna spend down roughly 65, just the rough guesstimate. This is very preliminary. This is not a budget that we're requesting you adopt, but just a preliminary calculation. We'd spend down something like $65,000 the first year of that 400,000, just in rough numbers. That number probably goes up each year. That deficit probably goes up each year unless something happens to our revenue stream. You know, we haven't had a lot of new development for about the past 7 years. We had a hotel that opened up this earlier or last year. So that'll be some benefit. But the growth in property taxes or CFD funds, which is another key resource, just has been kind of stagnant in the last several years. It has not gone up very quickly. If there is new development that produces CFD revenues, then maybe the tide will turn. But you know, you don't have, maybe you got 5 years before that $400,000 would be spent down under the current forecast. Which we get us to about 11 years since Measure A was approved. That was approved in 2019.
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement that this is a conversation that no one really wants to have because no options are really meeting the needs, and we're sort of choosing the best of the worst case scenarios. At first glance, I really was concerned about under option 1, the daytime shifts only ever having 2 personnel, but I understand through conversations that even if there are 3 staff members under Model A, that's only 1 shift, and also the experience of those reserves, you know, is not going to be the same as full-time engineers. And so, as Debbie mentioned, I want to trust all of the professional recommendations. I don't love the larger deficit number, but I think that the difference between the two is so minimal. It's not worth the risk of potentially of going against the professionals' recommendation. So I would be in support of moving to model or option 1.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for the presentation, and yeah, this is a tough call. I really wish we could have just kept 3 firefighters and, you know, on each shift, and that goes back to what Director Logan was saying. I think we need to look at the big picture. It just, you know, we need to look at big picture and see what we could do differently, and we may have to make some major changes, but that's the topic for another day. I don't like either one of these options. With Measure A, obviously, the level of experience is not there, and we've now, after 3 years with the grant, we've come to get used to that having that level of experience. It's good. I recall a few times you have mentioned what it meant, you know, to having this that experience on the shifts, each shift. So it does make a difference. It's good, but at the same time, with the option 1, we're not going to have the number of personnel that we will have in the future. You know, we would have, just like, for example, what happened with 4th of July, we wouldn't have had as many people on call that night. So it's not great. One concern I do have is we're going to be more limited with out-of-county assignments. And that's not just, I'm not worried about it bringing money, but from what I've talked to the firefighters, they enjoy doing that. They enjoy going out of the county, getting, you know, obviously getting that experience, as well as getting to, you know, networking, getting to know the others. So I really think we should consider working with Atascadero to come up with a program where we could make sure that we continue the out-of-county assignments, because I'm concerned that if we don't have the out-of-county assignments, then we may have firefighters that choose to go to other departments that do have the out-of-county assignments. So, and because I know you guys were just loving it last year, just being out there, and, you know, so, but I think it's important to maybe figure out a way to do that. It comes down, basically right now, it just comes down to the, you know, having experienced people versus numbers on each shift, so. It's, and as you said, I guess we do need to, trust the professionals who do this on every day. But I also do think though we need to look at the big picture and try to improve the funding for our firefighters, so. But yeah, I'm okay as well to try to do the option one for now. So if there are no further comments, I'll entertain a motion then to I guess for option one. I guess I'll make a motion to go ahead and at the conclusion of SAFER grant to go ahead and implement on February 18th option number 1 and make adjustments to the budget needed for fiscal year 25-26.
And just one point of clarification. I wanna make sure that the motion includes or that you eliminate the reserve firefighter program and that we notice the reserve firefighters that their positions would be eliminated upon implementation.
It's a tough decision, but
I think we also need to admit it, because I think we've got to look also longer term, because I think this is just a Band-Aid.
Yeah.
And so I think that we've got to also take action to say, how do we look at this longer term?
Sustainability.
Yeah,
well, we're not gonna be able to do
but I
that.
think
But I don't know if we could make a motion that.
Yeah, I don't know what that means, but.
I could put it on the agenda if
Yeah.
if everyone's in agreement. We could put that on the agenda to look at the revenue source
Yeah,
and
yeah.
if we need to make any adjustment.
yeah, because I just don't want to land it here because
no, I
we're running
get
a
it.
deficit, so we still have to address that.
Yeah.
And we also have to address kind of the sustainability, because at what point do we say it's no longer sustainable? So when do we hit that? And so I just want to make sure that we approve the short-term measure, which is the option 1, because that's kind of expiring next month. But then longer term, we have to
Yes.
have kind of a work plan.
Yes.
So that needs to be part of it.
That would, yeah, I mean, if we have the majority of people that want to get that, I think that's something that general manager.
And I just mentioned the distribution, that's not to say that's the solution.
No.
I think that we've got to look at what is the solution.
Yeah,
So
and yeah, we could,
I just don't want to lose
just
it.
have a discussion on that and be okay. Okay, but I will just stick with the agenda, with the motion that I made and see if we have a second.
I'll second.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Directors Ardonish,
Aye.
Tyrone.
Aye.
Logan,
I,
Mortensen is absent, and Peterson.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes 4-0 with one
Louise,
absent.
if I may, I'd like to thank everybody for coming in support of the fire department. And the least we could do is give a big hand to the fire department. You're gonna do a pretty good job. Even you.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right, that is done. Yeah, if anybody likes to leave, please.
Yeah.
Oh, there's plenty more, you guys.
I will take a 5-minute recess, that's fine. Thank you. Okay, let's go ahead, bring it back to order. All right, next item, PFAS testing results notification. Our assistant manager, Justin Black.
Good evening, Board. Justin Black, Assistant General Manager, Templeton CSD. This is an information item, and so just wanted to share a recent notice from the Division of Drinking Water regarding PFAS and notification limit exceedance for a particular compound. This is a fairly involved, and as I go through the presentation, it's brief, but as I go through, if you have any questions, please ask as we go through each slide. PFAS has been in the news. It's been all over the place, and local agencies all around us have been affected by testing and then, getting the results and having to in certain cases, having to respond, they've reached the response level and having to implement sorts of treatments and it's costly and all of those sorts of things. So I'll be brief. I'll go through it. Please stop me if you have any questions. PFAS. I wanted to back up and begin by talking about its origins. So PFAS compounds originated in the kind of the late 1930s, 1940s. In fact, I was reading about a chemist with DuPont who found Teflon, created Teflon, 1938. So a lot of these products, stain resistant products were created, used in manufacturing of products in the 1930s, 1940s. And it really it took off from there, right? So the state's board, when I was first looking at the State Water Resources Board, looking and dealing with PFAS, they mentioned somewhere around 5,000 different products were made with PFAS. Now it's above 14,000. And so DuPont, 3M, there's a few of those large, big companies that had not only had created them, but used them in a multitude of different products, thousands of products everywhere. I believe in my staff report, there was a mentioning of it's in the air, it's in the water. Now it's found everywhere. And so, exposure may result in adverse health effects. And there's a multitude I shared in the staff report. As I go through this, we'll be sharing more information on our website and in our consumer confidence report coming up for 2025. Later slides, I'll go over some of that information. Again, it's constantly changing and fairly involved out of all of the different constituents that we test for. And there's a myriad, lead and copper, iron, secondary, primary types of compounds that we test for. This one is one that is not naturally found in the environment, man-made, and it's grown, the attention surrounding it has grown over the recent, especially by the EPA and State Water Resources Board, and trying to deal with some of those adverse health effects. So if anybody has any question, its origin.
It's dental floss.
That's what I'm looking at.
Now we don't have to floss anymore.
I think fluoride was of controversial.
Yes, fluoride.
Okay, right. UCMR 5 requirements came out in 2021. Unregulated contaminant monitoring rule, and there were 4 prior, and they dealt with PFAS related constituents or other sorts of issues. Moving forward, they're going to be releasing the UCMR 6, and that's going to hit us in 2028 and 2030, and that deals with microplastics. Whole nother topic. There's going to be sampling and testing and all those sorts of things for drinking water with microplastics to deal with the UCMR 6. But with UCMR 5, Templeton was asked to sample its drinking water sources, its active wells, between June and December of 2025. We ended up sampling 5 of our 7 active wells. And again, they drop off the EPA. This was of no cost to us, but the EPA dropped off from chains of custody samples, an ice chest, freezer, the kind of the frozen packs to put in the freezer, chains you fill out ahead of time. They give you directions and watching videos of how you're going to sample for them. It's really unique. There's nothing else that we really sample for that has that sort of regimented, involved sort of details like PFAS, because it's everywhere now, unfortunately. So
this is not something that you regularly sample for. This was only done because the EPA asked you to do it.
This was the first time, and to my knowledge and the records that I can find, that we've been able to get a hold of, that we were asked to sample for PFAS.
By the way, we weren't being picked on.
Yeah.
Everyone's on a different schedule, but we all public water supplies.
Yeah.
Have sampling requirements that just have kicked in over the last several years.
So with the fact that we're now over kind of what's acceptable, are we now on a radar to retest or?
There'll be follow-up.
Okay.
Yes, that will be a part of our kind of monitoring and reporting program moving forward. Absolutely. And I'll cover that, the next PFAS testing
Okay.
as well, because we've already been notified
Oh, when is that gonna be?
of when the next battery of samples will take place, and that's between, right now, we're already into it, and it's gonna be conclude April 2027.
Okay.
And I'll get to that in a
Okay.
following slide.
Thank you.
I'm probably jumping ahead. Seems that I have read, is there a way to actually get rid of this?
No, it's
So
everywhere. It's
what
in
are they
the
gonna
air.
do if
Yeah.
we're over and?
Yeah,
Well, we're at a spot where we can measure it. And we have to notify people about it, but we haven't, the results haven't concluded that we have to
Take
treat it
action.
or eliminate.
But it's in the air, 'cause
Yeah.
I did some
Yeah.
research on this, it's everywhere, it's in the ground, it's in the air.
yes.
So even if you say, oh, well, we've
Yeah.
got a well,
Mitigate
shut down
here,
that well,
yeah.
there's no way really to mitigate it.
Yeah, the first, so not that necessarily you're mitigating it or dealing with it effectively, but blending is one of the first kind of solutions. Though there is a deadline even to blend, that by, I believe it's 2029, no longer gonna be able to blend, and you have to actually treat the water. How do you do that? There's a few technologies out there, ion exchange and granulated activated carbon are, I believe, to the south of us, the water purveyor has chosen granulated activated carbon as their solution. But it's costly, and there's, byproducts of all of it. Fortunately, we're not at a response level
Yeah.
in anywhere in our system right now, though that may change as we, things as we go down the road here, but,
What's that?
No flossing. Yeah, over a year.
okay, this is just, this is actually from a past committee meeting, but 4 parts per trillion. This image here just wanted to speak to
Oh, my God.
how small of an amount of PFAS compounds we're tracking and we're reporting, and, we're detecting. Our notification level exceeds that we're gonna get to, I believe, in the next slide, was 3.2 nanograms per liter, or parts per trillion. And so you can see 4 parts per trillion is the equivalent of, 1 drop in 5 Olympic swimming pools, to put it in perspective. So anyways, just, yeah, small amount, large amount of water.
Yeah.
So this goes into the levels and results. And on the top, you have the detection levels, notification level, response levels of the 2, I've noted, of the 2 PFAS compounds that we detected in our system. We detected 2 PFAS compounds, and we detected them in 2 locations at 2 facilities. Okay, we detected perfluorohexane sulfonic acid, or PFHXS, as it's termed. We saw that at the only facility was at Creekside River, which is a shallow river well down off of the Creekside Ranch area. And that's what the DDW recently, the Division of Drinking Water, reached out to us about. That we had a result of 3.2 nanograms per liter, or parts per trillion. And initially, we didn't have a notification level exceedance. However, the EPA lowered their limit. While just in the 6 months that we were testing, they lowered their limit. And they lowered that limit from 4 parts per trillion down to 3 parts per trillion. And that's why in December, the Division of Drinking Water reached out to us and said, with the EPA's now lowering their notification level, Now we realize, you realize this notification exceeds for PFHXS. The PFBS, which is found at Creekside River and at Fortini, those exceed the 4.4 nanograms or parts per trillion and the 6.8 nanograms per liter or parts per trillion. That exceeds the detection level. But as you can see for the notification, it's 500 parts per trillion. Parts per trillion, very small, talking about the water drop in 5 Olympic swimming pools. And so,
Wait,
yeah, it's yes.
okay, can we back up for a second? Okay, I just wanna make sure I understand the chart. Okay, so PFHXS, okay, that first compound. The detection level is the amount that was detected in the sample we provided. Correct?
The top table is just the regulatory agencies
Regulatory age.
thresholds. So then the first column is detection level.
So that's how much it has to
Yes,
be
it would-
present in order to trigger.
Yeah.
It'll come up non-detect. If it's lower than that, we can detect it lower than that, but it comes up in the chart as non-detect if it's below that level.
The detection level is noted because that's what would trigger a consumer confidence report
Anything in excess of that.
in the excess
Goes
of
to
that.
the notification level.
And then if
And then a
you,
response level is you have to do something about it.
you need to take action. And that could be immediately shutting down the resource, shutting down one of our wells. Then there's the blending, which it's difficult in our system. Our system is kind of one pressure zone, one big water system, so it'd be difficult to, and then there's, treatment options.
And notification refers to notifying the entity or our constituents.
Yeah, so the detection, if you can, so the detection level would be notifying the public. Notification would be notifying the board, you.
Okay.
And then the response level would be, we're gonna be doing all of those things, and also we're going to be, shutting down the facility or
Could
something.
it also be if someone wanted your sampling of your water, the quality of your water, would you also have to include this?
So we publish there's requirements for lots of constituents beyond PFAS. And we publish a consumer confidence report that kind of details our sampling and what's been found. And now we'll be adding PFAS.
This will be added to it. Yeah.
We do receive inquiries about the water quality, and
Yeah.
we do share that.
So Creekside Well is down the street, down the end of Main Street. Where's Fortini?
Behind kind of like the Target Shopping Center, up behind the Target
So
Shopping.
I'm just trying to think, what could be in the environment that's
Yeah.
causing this, and then not being detected
Well, so-
in the other wells?
So here's the, first of all, I think you need to operate the assumption that PFAS is in all water supplies. So even though we may say that it's non-detect, that just means that we haven't reached the detection
Threshold,
threshold.
yeah.
It's still likely
Yeah,
there.
yeah,
It's just in smaller amounts.
yeah, but still, for it to exceed that,
Well, it's a very small number. I mean, so years ago,
relatively speaking, yes,
Yeah,
but
they're-
still, it's kind of like, I mean, they're not even near each other.
Yeah, to your point, geographically,
Yeah,
there's a pretty considerable distance,
they're
but
drawn from a
also
different-
how deep they are.
Fortini Well's a Paso Robles Formation deep groundwater well,
okay.
so it's drawn from a different aquifer.
Its pump is set at 290 feet below grade, 300 feet below, whereas Creekside River is right around, 50 feet, so they're pulling two different, Smith Well, our largest, we rely on Smith Well more than any other well to supply drinking water to the community. It is the closest drinking water well that we have in proximity to our wastewater treatment plant, Outfall and Selby and those sorts of things. And we had a non-detect on 29 compounds were tested.
Wow.
Each facility, those 5 facilities were tested twice. And so far, the results, we're still awaiting kind of the second round on a couple of the wells, but so far the second round we've received on a few of the wells, they've been consistent. They haven't been lower than the first time. They haven't been greater. They've been just kind of consistent. So,
Excuse me,
Yes.
it's listed as an acid. You know what the pH on this is, or you know how strong of an acid it is?
I could look into the pH of the either one or both of the,
Of those
yeah.
acids, yeah.
I can look into that.
curious. How strong, you know, it'll burn through the table or?
For the second one, this is the PFBS. So we detected it at 2 sites, but look at the difference between the level detected and the notification level.
Yeah.
We're approximately 1%.
Yeah.
Of the notification level, so it shouldn't be too alarmed.
Yeah.
If we're good, I'll go to the next slide. Yeah, okay. So notification requirements. So board, we've covered the majority of this. So at notification exceedance, we would be notifying you, the board. We would be updating the 2025 or the subsequent, whatever it's related to, the consumer confidence report with that information. And so then noting PFAS results, the adverse health effects, in the staff report, you saw some examples of information. That's information that's for the most part, that's the information you're gonna see in the upcoming 2025 consumer confidence report. Was in some of those exhibits. And then the origins of those, and stereotypical for all of the different constituents that in the consumer confidence report that we talk about. We touch on these kind of aspects about that particular constituent. Ongoing requirements, right? So then there are going to be ongoing requirements. Division of Drinking Water just issued a new order, and so then that's going to require us to sample and test for PFAS at our active wells again. If there's a bright side to that is that we just got word that we would be able to use the MCR5 data that we obtained through the EPA and be able to use it for the Division of Drinking Water. So we may, instead of testing up to 7 active wells, we may be doing something like testing 2 active wells or something along those lines.
And do we select the wells or do they tell us?
It's determined, so the Division of Drinking Water has already, identified, classified our facilities. And so then we have 7 drinking water wells. And so they are already predetermined
Okay.
and identified.
So the 5 that we already had tested, they selected the 5 out of the 7?
So that was a conversation of what's working for you right
Oh,
now.
okay.
So unfortunately, we're going through some rehab at, like, for instance, Platt's Deep. And so it's more or less like a conversation of, the EPA wanted to have a conversation of what's functional, what's going to be supplied to the public during the summer, during this timeframe. And so then those 5 were selected through that process. And so we'll be making good on we just concluded kind of the UCMR 5. We'll make good on all of the requirements the Division of Drinking Water has just released and up through April 2027. And then, ongoing. There's going to be continued efforts on PFAS. Luckily, we haven't received a response level. And, that's good. That's positive for us, but
Do you know if anybody nearby
yes.
received?
Yeah, and they're working on treatment options to maybe perhaps to include granulated activated carbon.
Pascadero Mutual, and what about Paso?
Paso, I'm not sure about treatment, moving forward with treatment. There's some local water purveyors kind of around the target area that have noted they've exceeded the response level, and I tried to be of resource and trying to help them out with options to whoever their regulator is, whoever they're.
So yeah, I think it's safe to assume that this stuff is kind of everywhere. We're not surprised we got the results. The reason this is coming to you now, as opposed to when we first got the results, was at the time the results first came to us, the levels that we detected were below the notification level. So we had some, but we didn't have to do anything about it.
Yeah.
The rules changed and they applied retroactively to 2025 year sampling. And so that's why this item is specifically on this board meeting agenda and why you'll see it in the consumer confidence report. And our expectation is that this is a dynamic situation. Rules can continue to change. It's possible that The standards will continue to become lower on some of these, various constituents. And we may end up becoming more involved. Very fortunate that we're not in a situation where we've got to either deal with altering our resource allocation or you know, to what wells we draw from, or blending for this particular constituent right away, or treating for the constituent, but it's possible that might occur. We did not opt out of a class action lawsuit that many water providers participated in with the likes of DuPont and 3M, and they've received settlements. And now that we have these results, we can inform the parties of our results, and if we ever had to do something that might make us eligible for some funding. My understanding is Atascadero Mutual is expecting some very small portion of their costs to be funded through these class action lawsuits, but it's certainly not going to cover what they're facing.
So, yeah, I would be curious if there's others within the county that are also facing this, because hopefully there could be some leverage of some resources and knowledge of how it's being treated and what works and what doesn't work. And
There is that,
Oh,
those
yeah.
conversations are going on.
okay,
They're already going on, and yeah,
It's
we're having
it's
those.
kind of everywhere. So the whole
Yeah.
industry
Yeah.
looking at it. In some cases, some suppliers found they had PFAS in one location. Maybe it was near an old manufacturing facility or near a source. And they were just simply able to remove that resource
Yeah.
from their mix and kind of move on. Like in Atascadero Mutual's case, it was fairly widespread, and they couldn't avoid utilizing those wells. And so they're facing the treatment alternative, and have already adjusted rates to begin to pay for it.
well, we don't have any manufacturing near any of their wells. So,
But we are also very close to Atascadero and downstream. So anyway, I actually thought the results were very favorable. I mean, they could have been more alarming.
well, the problem is the remediation, if they start lowering the standards.
Sure.
That's where it becomes an issue. Cause I kind of was wondering, well, why inform the board? What are we supposed to do?
Well,
There's
yeah,
no
just
action.
knowledgeable.
We're aware, but, yeah.
We were just simply asked to
Yeah.
inform the board and add it to the CCO.
No, I
We should
appreciate
track
being
it closely.
notified. I just,
Yeah.
it just seems like, now what?
Ongoing testing,
Yeah.
working with our
As long
neighbors.
as, yeah, we
Yeah.
have some conversations with others who are dealing with this on a larger
Absolutely.
scale, that would be helpful.
Yes.
And it's certainly if there's a class action lawsuit that we can, also be party of.
Yeah, again, we did not opt out, so we're by default in,
Yeah.
but we didn't have results at the end of the phase one of that litigation. And again, our results right now still wouldn't have produced because we're not at a point where we were incurring costs for fixing it. But an update, there's a collection of, like a database of results, and populate the database with our results, so that if in the future we're required to take some sort of actions, there could be the hope of some money becoming available. But right now, I think I would say that all the water you drink has some forms of PFAS. Templeton.
Well, if it's not the water, it's my dental
It's
floss.
it's everywhere. Part of the concerns for us right now is, you know, we have our system relies on treated wastewater as a future water supply, right? We take a treated wastewater and we percolate it upstream of drinking water wells. Well, our wastewater system isn't treating any we're not collecting any PFAS. We're just turning it to it's not a closed circle, but it is, that definitely does occur.
And none of the testing is a cost that the district is asked to.
Yes, and not with the EPA's UCMR 5 that we just concluded. Those, because we're a smaller, lower, I believe we had to be underneath 3,300 connections. We were identified as a small water purveyor, and so then it was fully funded by the EPA. They dealt with everything. We're trying to work and identify what types of how many facilities and samples we'll have to collect for the new DDW requirements. But if the UCMR 5 results are applicable, we'll try and use those as much as possible and try to keep costs down as much as possible. We'll continue to monitor, track, coordinate with others around us and our regulatory agencies as well. Continually.
Thank you. Let me just go to public, see if public has any questions.
I just have one question. You said that the two treatments are the charcoal and also reverse osmosis?
Yeah, so ion exchange.
Oh, ion exchange, okay.
Ion exchange and granulated activated carbon.
Okay, and what is the cost difference between the two? Is the same or is it?
Yeah, I couldn't necessarily speak on that. The pilot study that was going on, a distributor from up north was helping out, I believe, was helping out the water purveyor to the south. And they ran ion exchange side by side with granulated activated sludge. And they found through the pilot study that granulated activated sludge was the better solution. And I don't know if that's ultimately that came down to cost.
Yeah.
You know, if that's the case. I'm not sure what their criteria was, but my Templeton CSD staff, the utilities are fairly familiar with granulated activated carbon, so you know, we were interested to hear that, you know, that was kind of the choice treatment option.
Yep.
Thank you.
Any other questions from public? Right, come back to the board. Any other questions or comments? All right, this was just informational, so we'll just go ahead and file it and keep us posted. Thank you. All right, next item is appointment of residents to internal standing committees. General Manager?
Sure, happy to present this item. So, back a few years ago, the district board decided to essentially enlarge or enable the committees to grow by having residents serving on them, and you've kind of tweaked that arrangement a couple of times since we first started this. Your appointments of residents to committees last year is lapsed, and so it's an opportunity to again consider appointing residents. We issued a press release in I believe it was November, and had a period of time where we sought applicants. It was posted on the website, and we informed our current residents of this opportunity to serve on, continue to serve on committees or change committees if they wish. At the conclusion of the application window, we received applications from 3 persons. Keith Axon, who presently serves on the Fire and Emergency Management Committee, Eric Marlowe, who presently serves on the Water and Wastewater Utilities Committee and has previously served on the Parks and Recreation and Refuse Committee, previous being 2024. And Michael Betancourt, who also applied to serve on Fire and Emergency Management Committee and is a member of the Measure A Oversight Committee already. So it's recommended that you consider appointing those individuals. Again, you tweaked these rules here a year and a half ago or so that while there can be multiple residents on the committee, one would be appointed primary, and if there's another, there would be an alternate. And the purpose of that was to make it easier to obtain a quorum. We did run into a circumstance a couple years ago where we had 2 residents on a committee and 2 board members, and that's a committee of 4. And 2 people couldn't conduct a meeting because that wasn't the quorum of the committee. And so part of the solution was to just limit it to 3, although more residents could serve in a sort of an alternate capacity, and certainly still participate, just not maybe formally cast a vote during those times. And then additionally, beyond these applicants, the board can continue to consider appointing persons to committees, residents on committees, so they don't have to be done tonight. If somebody you know is interested in serving, they can still apply, and this could be, this item could be considered again in a future meeting. For 2025, we did not have a member of a resident serving on the Admin and Finance Committee, but we did on the other 3 standing committees. And then I just would just note that the Measure A Oversight Committee has two fairly recent appointees to it. They're both actually here tonight. But we really are gonna need a third person to be appointed to that committee by late summer or early fall, so that that committee can function and produce its annual report to you in the fall and in early winter. So it's not a problem today that there's only two persons. Dan Mosinich, who was here earlier, is also a member of the Measure A Oversight Committee, but his term will lapse in a couple of weeks. And he is, the bylaws they require a 1 year off period after 2 successive terms. So we really do need a third person. So as you think about people you know who may want to serve, maybe you could prioritize that, especially as we get closer to fall, and recommending we get at least one more person on the Measure A Oversight Committee. But
And just, how many meetings is it?
I just usually 2 a year. 2 a year. It's not a heavy lift. I don't want to speak. We have a couple committee members here, so maybe it'd be better if you ask them. I don't think it's a heavy lift, but clearly we're not. No one's beating down the doors to join this committee. Anyway, so that what's before you tonight are three residents interested in serving a variety of committee roles. And it's up to the board to make a determination about which residents you'd like to.
So I have a question. What have we done the recruitment for the Measure A? Have we done anything on Templeton Proud?
We did not do, I don't think we did, I don't think we did it
Press release, we do it
on the district's website.
Website, and we send, usually send it out to the, the billing customers, and then the Parks and Rec, kind of like email group.
I think we did that last year when we were out of Measure A. We sort of scratched, we'll need to step up our efforts if nobody steps forward between now and say late summer. The committee usually only meets in the fall. So I wouldn't want you to beat the doors down today and get appointed only to just stand by for 6 months before they need to meet again. But if there's somebody who's interested.
A lot of prospects.
Yeah, we should have mentioned it when we had all the comments about the fire department.
Yeah. Although we could go back to some of the people who wrote letters.
Yeah, is that?
And offer. Okay, all right.
All right. Okay, so any questions on this item before I go to Republic?
A resident can serve on more than one committee.
Yes.
Any other questions? All right, let's go to public. Any questions or comments from public?
Let's go back to that Measure A thing. If worse comes to worse, could my wife be on the committee as well, or?
I need to review the bylaws. I don't believe I don't offhand recall a prohibition of spouses serving.
If two members are on, one has to be approved as primary and the other as backup.
Yes, if two members if two members of the public, two residents are appointed to the same committee, then one would need to be designated primary and one designated.
And we decide that?
No.
So I'm sorry, yes,
Well,
you do decide that.
Because it's 4 people, and the problem is the quorum.
So yes, the board would need to make that determination. In the case, you may be referring to the Fire and Emergency Management Committee, which had 2 applicants. Both of them selected, they requested to serve as primary, and neither selected an alternate, although one of those persons is here, and you could ask them if they would accept an alternate appointment.
Yes. Any other questions or comments from public? All right. Okay, so let's come back. So we need to figure out the fire and emergency. So Mr. Betancourt, that's okay. You're here. Okay. All right. Are you willing to serve as an alternate on the fire and emergency?
Yes.
Committee? Okay. All right. Because we do also have a need for admin and finance, which kind of oversees the budget.
No one wants the finance.
Oversees the.
Last person that did that's a board member.
Yeah, on the finance, my girlfriend wanted to do it, but your meetings are during the weekdays and she has a job, so.
Oh, I see.
Serve out.
Okay, yeah. But if you were interested, because it does kind of relate to with the fire department as well, because you oversee the budget for fire and all the different departments. So, but if you're interested in doing that as a primary, we do have that opening. But if you're okay for now to do the alternate, that's good. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Okay, so come back. So I will recommend to go ahead and have Keith Axon for fire and emergency, and then Mr. Michael Betancourt for alternate for fire and emergency, and then Mr. Eric Marlowe to do Parks and Rec and refuse, and as well as water and waste water.
I second.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Director Ardonish.
Aye.
Logan.
Aye.
Mortensen is absent. Peterson
Yes.
and Tyrone.
Aye.
Okay, motion passed.
Before you move on, the alternate can still attend all the meetings and participate fully, just not necessarily cast a vote and won't count towards the quorum. There will be a requirement, for all committee members to continue to use the Form 700 conflict of interest. That's not something that's occurred yet for Measure A oversight committee members, but for Mr. Betancourt, that'll be triggered upon, once we notify the county that you've been appointed to this committee, you'll receive a notification to make good on that assuming office filing.
Thank you both for volunteering.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, all right, and then so motion passes for. All right. Next item is the appointment of board members to committees. Yes, that's me. So went ahead, appointed the board members for the request. There was some requests made. So this is how it turned out. For administration and finance is Director Logan and Director Tyrone. For water and wastewater is Director Logan and Director Peterson. For fire and emergency is Director Mortensen and I. For parks and recreation, Director Mortensen and Director Tyrone. External committees, we have Nacimiento Commission, so it will be Director Peterson for the request, as well as alternate would be Director Mortensen. Templeton Tag Advisory Group, it's me, with no alternate and probably periodic attendance. Water Resources Advisory Group is our staff is General Manager Brills and our engineer is Engineer Azim. And then GSA, it's me with alternate director. Any questions? Nope. Okay, all right. That's that. So General Manager.
I just made a note of a couple of items to advise you on. The first one is the County Board of Supervisors is soliciting or has solicited for tax benefiting agencies to join their efforts in lobbying to the state legislature to approve a 20-year extension to Diablo Canyon power plant, but coupling that with the restoring of the unitary tax treatment that Diablo Canyon PG&E used to pay for Diablo Canyon. Templeton CSD was a recipient of this unitary tax. It comes in as property taxes. It was not a very significant amount. But when the power plant about 10 years ago was assumed to be shutting down permanently, there was some special legislation that wrapped up the unitary tax provisions, and we got kind of a lump sum payment, again, about 10 years ago. And the current short-term extension of the power plant did not restore the unitary tax payments. And so all of the county, the school districts, all the special districts that did receive some, and again, ours was fairly small, are not scheduled to continue to receive those. And so the county has requested that school districts, special districts, cities that receive those unitary tax benefits sign on as a co-requester of this legislation. This request came in around December 22nd, and the county gave us only until early January to notify them of our interest. We indicated that we were interested in at least receiving the unitary tax benefits. Every nickel helps. But if the board finds that controversial, that we would be weighing in on Diablo Canyon or in some other way wishes to kind of not engage in this effort, let me know, we could add it to a future agenda item and we can actually withdraw our support, but because the deadline was fairly short, I went ahead and said that Templeton CSD would back the effort to restore the unitary tax.
Any problem?
No.
Yeah, there's more money.
Yeah.
And then just a quick reminder that I will be gone late the end of this week and next week on a 4-generation staying in one place. I'm a very slow learner.
One of those trips.
Let's hope everybody comes back and.
I might be coming back sooner.
Or with gray hair.
Is that it, John? Okay. Any questions?
Oh, with no hair.
No.
I have one quick question. I know the time expired for you had people request for the water units, correct? Was that?
Yes, I don't believe we had any takers. So our current tally, I believe, is 219 available units, and that's before you consider the water buffer model update, which is hopefully coming to you in February.
Wow, okay. And then, do you think at some point we should now look at our relinquishment program?
I think that's something that you could consider.
Okay. Okay, so we could discuss, yeah, okay. All right, any questions for general manager? Okay. Committee reports, we have Fire and Emergency Management Committee report, we have Parks and Recreation and Reviews Committee, and we have Tag Committee. Not Tag Committee, Tag report. Any questions on those? Public, any questions on those? Okay. Activity update reports, we have engineering, finance, utilities, 2026 TKS legislative update, and we have the CHP patrol update. Any questions or comments on those? All of them? Public, any questions? Okay. Any director's report and or comments?
I had Melinda Reed, the president of TCLA, who's apparently my very near neighbor, 2 doors down, stopped by my house and asked to meet, just again to sort of advocate for the library and just inform me of the same sort of the exact same presentation that they have come before the board. My understanding from that conversation is the county's still going through their process in terms of reviewing all of the library services. So no real substantive conversation other than just she reiterated the effort.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I don't have anything. Well, thank you for that. Appreciate that. Any other comments from the board?
No, just that we've got that Sloan chapter CSDA meeting.
Are you on?
Yes.
Okay.
Anyone else?
I believe it's just the two of you.
Am I on?
Yeah.
Okay.
Am I going?
The RSVP came in a little, but I did confirm with them.
Okay.
I do.
Okay, so it's
Yeah.
just the two of us, so maybe we want a carpool, just an idea. So.
I think.
Well, it depends where I'm gonna be at. I'm supposed to be doing jury duty.
Oh.
Yeah, so I may just go from the.
Oh, that poor jury.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, good. We all said, well, meeting adjourned. Thank you so much.